Hello again. So this video continues on from the last one. You should have Node-RED installed and running on your system at the moment, and you should be looking at a page very similar to this. So on the left-hand side, you're going to have a palette, it is called, of a bunch of different blocks. In the middle, you're going to have a big empty space, and on the right, you're going to have information and description about this particular flow. So the way that flow-based programming works is that you have some inputs which will trigger or activate at certain points in time, or depending on different conditions, and then those pieces of information are going to flow through the program. And the way that we're going to lay that out, rather than it being many different lines of code, it's going to be visually structured like a flow diagram. So pretty much the most basic version of this is going to be an input, where we can just grab in a common inject. So an inject, just as it says there, injects a message into the flow, either manually or at regular intervals. And then we will include a debug box. So this will output information that we send into the system into the debug menu. So if we click and drag both of those out, we'll have something here and we'll have something here. So any outputs from a block are going to be on the right-hand side. Any inputs to a block are going to be on the left-hand side. So we're going to want to connect these two together. So you can click on one and drag it over there. If you want to delete one of these, you can click on it and just hit your delete button. And it doesn't matter which direction that you're sort of clicking and dragging this from, it will work exactly the same. So what this does, when we select it, you can see over here the information about it. And this will inject a message into a flow either manually or at regular intervals. If we double click on it, it will give us the ability to change what's getting injected. So when we click on this, we'll be able to change the particular information that's getting pushed through. So at the moment, the information that will get pushed through is just a timestamp, which will be the information of exactly when that information got sent. But it could be anything, and we'll look further into that later. So we can do the same over here. This is just taking input, and then it should be displaying it to the debug window. Again, we can inspect here and see we've selected message.payload, and then we're sending it to the debug window. The system console, if we tick this, then that's actually going to output back in the console over here that we're running Node.js in. So you can tick either, but debug window, we're going to be able to view the output from within the web interface. So just leave those two sort of as they are, and then you're going to hit this deploy button. So you can see at the moment there are two little blue circles above these. As you're adding and editing flows and developing them, any new nodes that haven't been saved and are running essentially are going to have those blue circles above them. So when I click deploy, those are going to disappear. And you can see those have disappeared. This says successfully deployed. Now to inject something, we can click this and we can say successfully injected timestamp. But then we don't really see the output. And the reason for that is that you need to click on this button to see the debug messages. So if we click there, you can see this is the debug window, and it's going to contain all the information about anything that gets output here. So if I highlight over this, you can see when I put my mouse over this particular debug message, it will outline over the box in the flow that that information has been coming from. And so, yeah, that's, if you have many different debug messages coming out, that's a nice easy way to determine where they've come from. So now that we've got that open, we'll be able to see if I just click here, then that sends another chunk of information. So at the moment it's just sending the timestamp, but as I said, we can set this to pretty much any variable. So if I said a string and I was to say hello, and then I click done, then rather than sending the current time, it's going to send hello. However, because I've edited that, I can't click this to send it. So you can see Node has undeployed changes. So again, we'll have to deploy. And now rather than sending that payload number, which I should have said before is a timestamp, so if we click this, this is the time represented in a standard date and time format, or something like this. And then there's in hexadecimal, you don't have to worry too much about that. So that's the same information, but being represented as a number, where it's also information that's a date. Anyway, if we, back to our changed version, click this button, it will say hello as our output. And again, we can see that's coming from the same payload. So you can have all sorts of complicated things coming out here. But really, this is all that Node-RED does. You have some number of inputs coming in. We're going to introduce things in between the inputs and the outputs later on, and then you're outputting to somewhere. So here we're outputting to the debug window, but you can, as we'll see, just as easily output to particular physical pins on a board. You can output to web services, so this could be some kind of Twitter post or something like that. You can output to different files. And the things coming in here as well, they can be from external places. So this could be going to a certain web address. This could be all sorts of different things. So it's really, really powerful for just connecting simple services or simple devices together. And that's what makes it really powerful and effective for these sorts of applications in Internet of Things development. So that's all for this video, and the next one we'll talk about the stuff in the middle that I skipped over, and sort of performing operations on the information before it gets output.